Hello, I'm Gareth Jones, sports editor at BBC Radio Leeds. Welcome to our special Leeds United video previewing the weekend home game against Brentford in the Championship. A match, as always, you'll hear exclusive FM commentary of on 92.4 FM and 103.9 FM. Join us from 2 o'clock, our dedicated Leeds United build-up show, that full commentary, and a dedicated post-match show as well. With a man to my left, our Leeds United commentator Adam Pope and the former United striker Noel Whelan. Popey, before we chat about the game itself, this week you've been speaking to the new chairman, Andrew Umbers. What were the key points that stuck out for you from what he had to say to you about Leeds?
I think the key one was that he said that the financial state of the club is a lot better than it has been for a long time. And if you're talking figures, the £20 million loss that's been much talked about up to June last year, he says that should be near sort of 7 or 8 million by next time around, and that they will be FFP, financial fair play compliant, so that the transfer embargo will be lifted. So that was one of the main things.
Interesting, you spoke to the Derby match winner Billy Sharp after the game the other day and asked what had changed, and he kind of hinted that maybe Neil Redfern was being left alone to focus a little bit more on the side, with Chilena obviously not being involved now. Do you think that maybe is helping Redfern?
I think it probably is, and I think there's two things. Steve Thompson being there helping Neil Redfern is a big thing. He is being allowed to get on with it, but I think the other big point that Andrew Umbers made was that this is Massimo Chileno's ship, and I am the steward of it while he's away, and he is convinced that he'll be back to do it. So I'm sure he'll be back in all his glory before too long. But no, Redfern's been allowed to get on with it and reaping the benefits. 4 matches unbeaten.
Glad you said ship there, by the way. If you haven't heard that Andrew Umbers interview yet, you can see it on our Audio Boom channel, which is West Yorkshire Sport. Tweet the link out at WYS Daily as well. Moving on to the game against Brentford, United now have momentum. How important, particularly at home, they've got to keep that going, keep moving up the table.
And they've been doing it against some decent sides, to be honest. Huddersfield Town have been in a reasonable run of form, have they not? And were beaten at the very death with a really, what is termed as an ugly performance, the true ugly performance. Winning ugly, sorry, the performance you'd be happy with, but it was winning ugly. Bournemouth played superbly well, right at the top of the table, and now Brentford, somewhere in between, obviously pushing themselves forward, looking for promotion too. So tough game, this one. They'll have to be right on it, because what he said is that Brentford can play in various ways. Bournemouth, how they play, they stick to it. Brentford, they can mix it up a little bit.
We saw that earlier in the season on that bizarre day when Chileno ended up going in with the away fans, didn't he, on that day, and gave Warnock particularly a lot of abuse that day. This time around, hopefully much better scoreline for United. Ahead of the game, injuries, players available, players not?
The key thing was, would Lewis Cook be fit? He came off against Huddersfield having overextended his knee. He's fit and ready to play, so I do expect him to play. Elsewhere, no other fresh injuries. A bit of bad news about A.D. White. He's had this metatarsal injury. He's had a second operation. They're hoping to get him back before the end of the season. He's out of contract at Leeds. And the real downside is that Neil has said, look, I would love to work with him because we need particularly a left-sided player that can go by people, and I think he can see that A.D. White might be that person if he's given the chance to do that. So we'll have to wait and see. Grandy and Guy, defensive midfielder, has arrived and aggravated an old injury. He's going to be out for at least a couple of weeks. And then Zan Benedicic is still recuperating from another knee injury. I mean, he's on loan for the season from Milan. So again, you're sort of ruling those players out, certainly for the considerable future.
So would you make any changes? Antonucci set up the winning goal. Billy Sharp got the winning goal, having both come off the bench. Pushing for starts, or do you stick with the one up front that worked well?
Well, he was glowing in his praise of Billy Sharp and what he's done and his attitude and how he's got a bit of edge, but he's very, very manageable, and he's great to have around, and he couldn't speak too highly of him, but he also spoke very highly of Steve Morrison. So I don't get the impression that they'll change too much. They might go to a bit more 4-4-2 possibly, rather than a 4-2-3-1, but Morrison's leading that line. Edgar Channy will not be leading that line at this stage. Interestingly, he sort of referred to him as I've seen lots of good batsmen in the nets, but it's when you get out into the square, of course, and then it's when you got to start producing the runs. So he says, look, this guy can finish, he's got ability, but he's obviously not the finished product yet.
Not many more intimidating squares than Elland Road, is there, either? So that'll be a big test of him. And test of the Brentford team that come up to face Leeds at Elland Road on Saturday. So join Adam Pope, Noel Whelan, myself, Gareth Jones, live from Elland Road, 2 o'clock, for that exclusive FM commentary of United against Brentford, or that dedicated United build-up and post-match show on 92.4 FM and 103.9 FM, Saturday from 2.